Hi, I'm Cleo. I'm a longtime tutor and a test prep expert here with study.com. So today we're going to be talking about the Praxis Core Reading exam, which is test code 5713. And we're going to be focusing on the idea of craft, language, and structure, specifically organization and structure. So we have three different practice problems to get into those skills and try them in action. So let's dive in. Check them out. Okay, so for our first passage here, the passage is going to be the same for all three problems, just so you know. But we're talking about structure and organization, right? So we're going to read this passage and then think a little bit about what it means, how it's structured before we look at the answers. So during the early European Renaissance, the value of lapis lazuli, a semi-precious stone, was nearly equivalent to gold. This remained largely unaltered until the late 18th century, when a synthetic ultramarine pigment was created, reducing the demand for the stone. Suddenly, the once bustling lapis mines across Afghanistan started to dwindle. The invention of industrial machinery during the same period, which could mine and process the stone faster than human hands, further impacted the industry. The lapis lazuli market experienced a resurgence in the late 20th century, when the stone's metaphysical properties gained popularity, causing its value to soar once again. So before we look at the problem, let's just check in with ourselves and make sure we understand what's going on. So that's always going to be relevant, right? So what is this about? I'd say the main idea is this is about a precious stone that started off super valuable, and then for various reasons over time, kind of the value dwindled, the stock fell, and then it came back to value again. So that's sort of the loose structure and the main idea, right? Okay, now we'll look at the problem. And my main tip to you, is to always predict the answer before you look at the actual answer choices. Because if you know what you want and you know what you're looking for, then it becomes a rather clear-cut game of like matching to your prediction rather than being like pulled in by something that's kind of right and thinking through every option really carefully and slowly. It's a lot easier if you know what you're looking for. It's like going into a search with a clear target. So, which of the following best describes the organization of the passage? Well, like we said, the organization is kind of that it starts off describing this thing and then tells us what happens to it over time, right? So, A series of significant events are detailed in their historical sequence. Sure. That's not super specific, but that does seem valid. So I'm going to consider A. It's going chronologically, right? B, a problem is described and a solution is proposed. No, there's no real problem here. It's just that it starts off strong, it falls, it comes back. So that's not right. C, a novel approach is presented and then evaluated. Are we talking about like, this is the new way to do this. Let's think if that's working. No. D, a generalization is made and illustrated with several examples. No, we're really just talking about this one thing over time. E, a commonly accepted point of view is refuted. No, that also doesn't seem that valid because there's no accepted story about it that then we tear apart. So our best answer is going to be A. Okay, on to the next. All right, so for our second problem here with the same passage, the content of the passage is best described as. So again, let's predict so we know what we're looking for. What is the content? What is this about? Well, it's about this semi-precious stone and how its value changes over time, right? So a critique of the use of industrial machinery in mining. No, we mentioned that, but that's not a critique of that. B, an exploration of the metaphysical properties of lapis lazuli. Again, it's mentioned, but that does not make it the main idea. C, a discussion on the fluctuating value of lapis lazuli over time. That sounds pretty good. D, a comparison between lapis lazuli and gold. No, it's mentioned briefly, but that's not the point. E, a history of the synthetic ultramarine pigment industry. No, again, mentioned, but our best answer there has got to be C. That's the main idea. That's what we predicted. So that shows again why it's so important to get a real sense of, synthesizing the information in your brain before you even look at the questions. Okay, on to the last one. Okay, here we go. Same passage. Problem 3, what is the main purpose of sentence 1? Well, let's see. What's sentence 1? During the early European Renaissance, the value of lapis lazuli, a semi-precious stone, was nearly equivalent to gold. So in our own minds, before we look at the answers, what is that doing for us? How is that setting up what's to come? Well, it's telling us that this thing started off being super valuable, right? It's giving us a reference that we understand. It's like, wow, this thing was really important. So, okay, what's the main purpose? A, to describe the geographical origin of it? No. B, to highlight the impact of industrial machinery on mining? No. C, to introduce the historical value of lapis lazuli? Yeah, we're saying it's super valuable. So we are introducing the value, okay? Consider that. D, to explain the metaphysical properties of it? No, that's only mentioned briefly at the end. E, to discuss the creation of synthetic ultramarine pigment? No, our best answer there has got to be C, to introduce the historical value of it. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. If you want to check out some more materials for the Praxis exam, you can see many more practice problems here, or you can head over to study.com, where there is a full Praxis test course with many more sample problems. As a member, you have access to hundreds of problems, as well as specialized instruction for specific topics you want to focus on, as well as strategy to boost your score on test day. And also, we want to hear from you. So feel free to drop a comment in the little section below and let us know if there are specific topics that you want to hear more about, that you want us to focus on. And like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, because there will be more. Thanks so much and happy studying.